Captain's Log, February 16th, 2017. Hi, folks. It's been a good long time since I've put out a Captain's Log for you. Dan Torrey brought me a piece of news today that I could not resist and decided I had to sit down and talk about. Of course, it's Spawn-related. Just can't help myself. I'm about to put together 3 pieces of information, 3 things that will sound so completely random, you'll think that I had to have just spun a wheel with these different items on them 3 times to get each of these things. But Kevin Smith is wanting to make a Sam and Twitch series for BBC America. Because those are 3 things you immediately think of together. Kevin Smith, not exactly the first name you think of when you think of hard-boiled detective stories, police procedurals, that kind of thing, even occult things, although I guess that is something that he kind of has an interest in, and, you know, the more I'm thinking about this, actually, his run on Daredevil is certainly a pretty street-level crime drama, so I suppose he makes sense when you consider that, but I never even really knew that he had any interest in Spawn, and of course he was in his heyday in the 90s and is a big comic guy, and of course would have known about Spawn because Spawn was the hottest thing for 5.5 seconds, and he's, like a lot of us, he probably has some nostalgia for that period and for at least the look of that property. He's been directing a little bit of TV here and there lately. I think he's a really competent TV director, and I think he could potentially be a really good showrunner. I don't know if he's going to showrun this, if this ends up coming to fruition. All we know is that it seems to be his idea. He has pitched this show. He's wanting to make it, and so I for one hope that this happens. I would be really curious to see it. Sam and Twitch is one of the better properties, you know, auxiliary properties connected to Spawn, one of the spin-offs. And I really like Bendis's run. I think it starts to peter out, and the stories in the back end aren't as good, but especially those first couple of stories are really good, really attention-grabbing, really atmospheric, and it kind of solidified his style. It put him on the map, and immediately got the attention of a lot of people, which helped to pave the way for Bendis's really successful and prolific career since then. Obviously, I hope that Bendis is consulted for this series. I hope that it borrows from his comic arcs and at the very least looks at that material in order to establish its tone. Do I think this show will have anything to do whatsoever with Spawn? No, I really don't. I don't think he'll be in the background. I don't know if there will be even any sense of a war between heaven and hell or any of that kind of thing, and I don't think that it has to have it. It would be really cool if Sam and Twitch found an audience and a fan base all on its own and didn't have to rely on Spawn and that iconography at all, because I think they can be really fascinating characters. Bendis fleshed them out wonderfully. I think Twitch especially is a really fascinating guy. And then later on as that series continued, we also fleshed out Sam really well, and made these guys, took these guys from really obvious stereotypes and transformed them into 3-dimensional, complex, and flawed but endearing characters. And that's, of course, what I hope this show would do. Apparently, it's, from this article I read on Bleeding Cool, it's supposed to be a procedural, which means that each episode would be standalone, but it would have serialized components as far as the character drama and things like that go. I think he would be likely to go to a lot of the occult things and but again, not necessarily related to anything celestial or cosmic, but just the occult, just like cults and magic and or potential magic. And I think if it's anything like the Bendis comics, it's likely to be really X-Files-esque, in that you never fully know exactly what's going on. I think it would be likely to be that kind of show, and I think it would be really fun to kind of go back and forth between science fiction and fantasy, and have a lot of cases where you're not really sure at the end of the day which it is. And obviously, being Sam and Twitch and being, at least with the comics set in the Spawn world, I imagine it will be a really rough and tumble kind of show, that it would be, as the Bendis comics said on the front, it would be hard-edged crime fiction, and I don't know, I'm excited about about this potentially. Again, these are not characters that are going to by themselves draw a big audience. I'm hoping that if it's advertised correctly, it can bring in a bunch of people who like the look of it and can just immediately, even if subconsciously, tell, oh, this is a comic book kind of thing. It looks like crime pulps, and it's really super stylized and that kind of thing, and that it's not really generic. Sam and Twitch should be kind of larger than life, at least, you know, in their look, where they live in a heightened kind of world, but they take everything very seriously, and I think it's, once again, I don't think it needs Spawn. I don't think it needs anything from that world except for Sam and Twitch. I think they can certainly hold their own, and I've read a lot of stories where they've held their own and not had anything to do with Al Simmons or the battle between Heaven and Hell, Malebolgia, Violator, any of that stuff. And so it's not a show that would necessarily be really expensive to make. I would hope it would be a somewhat minimalistic show, kind of like the X-Files. But the big difference between it and X-Files is that it would look like a more comic book world and not at all like it's set in the world that we live in. I would kind of hope that also it wouldn't be like X-Files in that it would have like a big giant conspiracy in the background, and that it would really be allowed to be much more of just a procedural show, and that what would kind of carry it along episode to episode would be Sam and Twitch's personal lives, because that stuff gets really interesting in the comics, and just comparing and contrasting those guys and the different kinds of ways they live. One guy's really slovenly, the other guy is really is much more put together and lives a much more kind of posh sort of lifestyle, but they're both, but they both live in this really rough and scary kind of world, and they react to the bizarre things and the horrifying things they see every day in various ways. They also really need each other, and they kind of you know, Twitch kind of helps to ground Sam, and Sam kind of gives Twitch someone to play off of, so that he can keep up his optimism. But anyway, I really hope this happens, and I find myself much more excited about this than I am about the alleged, you know, ostensible movie that McFarlane is supposed to make for Spawn, with the script that, curiously, if memory serves, included Twitch but did not include Sam, or maybe it was the other way around. But I think that's how it went, because McFarlane is supposed to write and direct that movie. He keeps talking about it like it's going to happen, but he hasn't gotten any backers yet or anything, and it is, I hate to say, just likely to not be very good and make any sense, because that's what his writing has tended to be, whereas Kevin Smith can be a really great writer, and when he puts his mind to it, and he's really, you know, he throws himself completely into something, it can be fantastic. And I would love to see him do something straightforward that's not just a straight comedy like this. And weirdly, I think his sensibilities might actually be right for it. So, like I said, I hope this happens. I think it could be great, and looking forward to seeing your comments and whether or not you agree with me. Anyway, thanks as always for watching. Sure appreciate it. And this concludes today's Captain's Log.